Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So obviously we're not getting a new league anytime soon, most likely until late January, early February, with the upcoming launch of Path of Exile 2, which is out on the 6th of December in early access. So in the meantime, we're getting like a relaunch of the 3.25 league. Is that good? Is that bad? I actually think it's pretty good. I'm keen to play POE 2, but I'm also keen for something to sink my teeth back in Path of Exile 1 for the time being. And by the way, none of the builds that I list here I'll be playing. I have something different in mind. The next video I put up will talk about that, and it's totally untested, and I will likely fail to a degree, but I might turn it around and make it out to be really good. Anyway, beyond that point, so obviously we're looking for builds coming into the 3.25, let's call it League relaunch. So here's 5 builds that do that. Now if you stay tuned at the very end, I've also got 5 archetypes, which I'll send you links to poe.ninja that you could also have a look at. So sort of this is 5 builds from 5 creators and 5 other build archetypes you can look into and investigate further. I'd suggest the way that you do this is you literally go through the time machine and you basically look at, from day 1 through to, the current date. The other thing to bear in mind that the mods that we're getting onto the sort of instances or maps are from the Necropolis League in 3.24. So, and these are all to the benefit of the player, so it's going to be more currency availability and things like that, which will allow you to be able to gear up a lot quicker, hopefully if you're playing a trade element of the league. I believe if by reaching level 30, you also get access to a loot box as well, or the Settlers Mystery box as well. So there's a little bit of a benefit to play this too. So anyway, here's 5 builds, enjoy, and hopefully this gives you a bit of a direction of what you could play in the 3.25 Settlers of Kalguur relaunch league. Okay, so the first build curator off the list, or the first build creator off the list that I'll feature is Zish. I pretty much put him in like every list now because number 1, his build's interesting, number 2, it's good, and number 3, he's basically the master of Frostblades. So in this case, it's the Frostblade Warden that he played on League Start, which ended up being an extremely powerful build. So there's further links to his other videos, which I'll provide around his progress updates and whatnot. But for the most, his build was super well constructed. He streams on Twitch as well, so feel free to go and check out his channel too. I'll actually put a link in the description to that too. But yeah, basically overall high damage, good sort of risk and reward. You can basically blast through everything in the game, and it's relatively easy to follow his guide as well. It's really well constructed. In his POB, he includes like a day 1 through to week 1 high budget leveling sort of guide all the way through the axe, through into white maps beyond level 75. But basically, for anyone who hasn't played Frostblades, it's exactly what it sounds. It is Blades of Frost that you hit everything with, and using the new Warden as well as tinctures as well that were added into the game, this is a super easy way to power up a build. And it's relatively, even at high cost, it's like a relatively more affordable build than other builds that are out there. But yeah, if you want a really fast, really high octane mapper, maybe you only want to get to level 50 or so, this is definitely going to be a build to consider. I'm pretty sure Zish did an SSF version or a hardcore SSF version on the Trickster as well. So I'll find those videos and put them in the link or in the links below for you to check out his channel. But yeah, this would be build number 1 that I'd recommend for a pretty solid mid-league relaunch, restart, whatever you want to call it, league start, league start. Anyway, this would be build number 1 I'd recommend. Okay, so the next creator that I'll feature, and I'll put a link to his Twitch as well in the description, is Anime Princess. So if you're after a really good spellcaster, you want to play Spark, something that just wipes out entire areas and or maps. It's relatively tanky, it's easy to approach, and you have a guide with an hour of content. That is the link that I'll put below. But then also Anime Princess has numerous other guides around how to gear up and make Spark work. Then definitely Anime Princess is going to be your best pick in that department. So basically in the POB, he features a first lab, second lab, post-campaign setup with post-Uber lab as well, into endgame, then a Widow Howl crit swap, into a bunch of other upgrade variants that you can go with as well, to like a pure, insane full endgame configuration. Overall, his guide's extremely well constructed. Also, he's got a written guide component for each act that basically gives you the full walkthrough of every single iteration of the skill changing that you need to put into the build. Overall, his build's super solid, really strong, really easy to approach. It's relatively beginner friendly. If you watch the content that he's put up and follow what he's saying, it's extremely easy to follow. He is basically a master of spark builds, so if you're looking for something in the spellcasting variety, then this is definitely going to be up your alley, and I would recommend his build over pretty much any other spark build that's out there. Anyway, this would be my my second recommendation for the League relaunch. Now, the next one is actually a Zero to Hero SSF series, or a Zero to Hero series that's done by Exiled Cat. Now, the reason why I featured this one as a League starter, he steps through the entire process of gearing. His videos are actually extremely consumable, so they're very easy to sit down and sort of watch and enjoy. They're entertaining. But also his build variants and the way that he paces his builds are really well done. So I believe there's 3 parts to this series so far that increase the velocity of the build at each point. And the POBs that are provided are, you know, your pretty lock standard POBs for what they are. But he also provides like an early, really easily approachable like crit Smite Juggernaut POB initially that you could follow, which would be sort of the League starter setup. It's not a very expensive sort of POB to get started either. So you get to like 1.6 million DPS on that, and he pretty much explains how to gear it up throughout the entire process of the video. And then sort of as you watch the video, you can see how he sort of farms items and then acquires new items essentially using, you know, trade, but starting with 0 at the very start, and using nothing but the currency that he's farmed in the process of farming to be able to acquire his updates to his build. So overall, I really like his videos. They get quite a good view count as well, which is pretty cool. And you know what? They're well constructed videos, easy to follow. And if you're looking to play an armor stacker, I would definitely recommend the Zero to Hero series. Even I looked at it and learnt bits and pieces of how to approach an armor stacker early on, like if you were starting at a 0 point. And that's really good. Also, like the EHP on the armor stacker, even at a very low variation, is like 184,000, which is quite impressive. And it's got a good amount of armor at 448,000 armor on a Jugg, you know, just with some replica dream feathers and running a formless flame. Now, are you going to get all these items on day 1? Probably not, but you would get all the items for the crit val smite juggernaut variation on day 1, and then you would spend time then farming out the other items, and that's exactly what you can see in the video. So yeah, the third build that I'd feature would be the Smite Juggernaut, Armor Stacking Juggernaut from Exile Cat in his Zero to Hero series. Alright, so the next build that I'm going to feature here is actually from NoName HQ, and it's the Hexblast Trickster. So this build's been around for a little while now, and in fact a few leagues ago I played a Hexblast variation with the Saboteur. I call it the Heavy Metal Hexblaster. But more or less, like, there's a full atlas sort of breakdown in the tree that's been provided for this one. So there's a pretty good, like, low budget variation of the build that he's put together. And then you can sort of tick through the tree and get all the upgrades. Now, there's a very quick blurb about how the build works too. But more or less, the way that Hexblast works is you use Profane Proxy as your sort of proc to then get your hexes on the enemy. And then you then hit it with Hexblast, and Hexblast procs damage based on the number of hexes on the enemy. Now mines just have insane levels of scaling, and as a result of this you can do absolutely disgusting amounts of DPS with this build. And in fact it's used in like Sanctum farming and stuff like that, because you don't even need to be near the enemy to be able to blast stuff. Now when I played it, I got to like T16 maps with like pretty scuffed gear pretty much straight away. And yeah, it just absolutely nuked its way through the game. And fortunately, and this is what's bizarre, is for the last few leagues, there's been absolutely nothing touched on Hexblast. And so it sort of went under the radar for the last like 2 to 3 leagues without a lot of people playing it. It was meta at one point when a few creators were sort of putting it up on the table. but it never stopped being a super powerful build. Now, you can use like Pyroclast mines as well as another variation if you don't want to play Hexblast. It works a little bit differently, but it's the same concept. That being said, it's a relatively easy build to gear up. Profane proxies are generally not very expensive unless the build would go meta, which it was only ever expensive when the build was meta. But to date, this is just a super rock solid build. It's not the tankiest build in the world, but it can still sort of subvert a fair bit of damage coming in because it is running the Trickster, so it's a lot faster than other builds as well, and just a lot of fun to play. And who doesn't want to see this whole screen explode every 5 seconds with Hexblast mines? Anyway, check out the video done by NoName HQ. It's actually pretty amusing. It's not bad, and he's got some pretty good commentary back there and feedback from the community, which is definitely one of the things that I check out when I'm looking at different build videos to feature in this sort of list that I put up at the start of every league and whatnot. But yeah, anyway, the fourth build that I recommend would be the Hexblast Mine Slinging Trickster. Okay, so the fifth build that I'll feature is one from my channel, and it's my Shield Crush Jugg. Now, you can play Shield Crush on League Start. It actually got buffed pretty significantly this league, and it scales like an absolute monster. You can play it from early level 1 too. It's one of the first 4 gems you get if you play the Marauder Ascendant, or Marauder class, sorry. So, yeah, I ended up switching to this early on at the very League Start. Now, the only thing is, I played it for a few weeks, so I got my currency up, and then I was super keen to just play other less meta builds and things like that. So I got it to the point where I had Blitz procced into it and things like that, and just blasted through everything. Now, I've had people send me trees where this build is absolutely just slapped, and I'll dig one of those trees out and put them into the POV or the description below as well, so you can see where it can go if you put a little bit of investment into it. And having the more available currency from the from this sort of temporary or this the secondary league relaunch is definitely going to make that a lot easier. Now, I did put 4 parts up from League Start, so I serviced this build incredibly heavily this league, and so there's plenty of information around how to gear it up. If you go through the comments and or through the videos, it basically has all the information that you need, so I'll put all the links in the description below. This is not the best build that you will play in the game, but it is like an all-rounder build. It's not exceptional unless you put a lot of investment into it, but it's also not weak either. It's pretty consistent all the way through, and relatively easy to gear. Really only is predicated on getting Seething Fury and Emperor's Vigilance, and a Replica Dream Feather, and then stacking up armor, and beyond that point the build just sort of carries its way through everything. Anyway, if you wanted a consistent build, something that works, that's been tested a number of leagues and got buffed up in the 3.25 league, this is definitely one worth checking out. I'll put all the videos in the description below for you to refer to, and there should be an abundance of information contained within them around all the problems and all the things that you might run into to be able to troubleshoot your way through the getting through the build and or putting together a successful League Starter build. Now, in doing research, obviously this is a list of 5, but I also picked up on 5 other different archetypes that you could go on the POE Ninja, and I'll put in descriptions below, or links in the description below to cover off on these. But basically some other popular League Start builds from 3.25 that players have already exercised. You can find tons of reference material on if you want to do the research and set it up yourself and don't want to follow a guide per se. Is Lightning Strike Slayer, Ice Nova of Frostbolts, Heirophant, Lacerate of Hammerage Gladiators were very popular this league. Poisonous Concoction of Bouncing Pathfinders are also really good, and Earthshatter Zerkers as well are pretty good too. Now, I will make a comment about slam builds, and I did test one to sort of take into a League Start scenario in the last week or so. They are not, like, while the skills got buffed, they are not as good as people sort of promoted them to be, and still require a considerable amount of investment and time to get them working, and tuning and crafting of a really good sort of primary weapon. And even then, they're not the most defensive builds in the world, and they require a lot of mucking around with war cries and stuff like that. So I still don't think slams are in the best place from a technical standpoint. From a numbers standpoint, they're pretty good if you invest in them, and they can be really powerful, but the key word is investing into them. And if you, I guess if it's not your playstyle by nature, or you don't want to spend the time tuning it, then it's probably not the right build for you. I personally find it a bit cumbersome to get it working, And so my league starter is going to be something that's a throwback to like very early days in the game. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it got buffed this league, but nobody's really playing it. So anyway, or it could be absolutely terrible, but I want to try something new. That leads me to the next comment I'll make is if you want to just try something totally bizarre, you've got nothing to lose in this scenario. We've got Path of Exile 2 coming out. Try something that makes no sense. You know, I don't know what that might be off the top of my head. I'm sure plenty of people might have some like Hidden Blade or something like that. Maybe not as an initial league starting skill, but, you know, try something interesting and different that you haven't played before would be another suggestion, because why not? You know, it's basically just a relaunch of the same league anyway with some added advantages. So you might as well have some fun with that too, and learn some new things. But anyway, that's basically it for the for my other recommendation here. Okay, so hopefully this gives you a bit of guidance on what to play coming up on Saturday. It's obviously, you know, there's other really good builds out there. This is only like 10 potential options with 5 League Start guides that you could refer to, or 0 to Hero guides that you could refer to. By all means, you could play Flicker Strike, and that should work fine. I got it working in SSF, though that's actually would be really easy in a trade league scenario to play. And all you really need is a Terminus Est. So, you know, if you want to play Flicker Strike, don't let your dreams be dreams. But yeah, anyway, I'll see you guys on Saturday. I'll be online all day on the stream. And yeah, hopefully this gives you some ideas. Now, don't forget to like and sub to the channel, obviously. Don't forget to check out the X or the Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And also, I'm always over on Twitch most nights. The last few nights I've been a little busy, but I'll be back online from tomorrow night anyway, and you can talk to me about build options or questions you might have there as well. The other thing I'd also say is for creators that are looking to promote their channel and builds, these videos do pretty well. I'm fortunate for that. I'm very grateful for everyone who clicks on them. And if you're a creator and you want your builds to be featured on the channel, definitely reach out to me on Discord or by any other means. I'm pretty contactable, or even on the streams, and let me know and float me a video link, and I'll have a look at it. And yeah, we'll see if we can get it onto the curations. I'll be doing these for Path of Exile 2 as well when builds become a thing. So yeah, definitely reach out to me. Anyway, I'll see you guys later, and have a good one.